How you doing?
Afternoon.
Happy Friday. So, a lot of questions, so I'll get them going. Do you think the lockdown will last longer than 28 days with cases up at 1855 today?
I hope it doesn't. And I think there needs to be an honest conversation of where the cases are coming from. I've said since the beginning of the provincial lockdown that I don't believe it's coming from our small businesses, from our retailers, from our restaurants. I think we need to be more surgical in focusing where the transmission is happening, which is in industrial settings.
So let me ask you, what do you think of this lockdown now that it's kind of, do you think it's going to help anything?
Well, I've said from the beginning of the lockdown that I had voiced my concerns that it's sweeping and across the board, but it excludes the greatest sources of transmission. And so, for the restaurant that doesn't have any outbreaks in Brampton, why are they being closed? Our major source of transmission is industrial settings that is linked to household spread. We've had 126 workplace outbreaks. Where we are right now with allowing the big box stores to be open, but closing the small retailers, I'm not sure it's going to result in significant reductions of COVID cases. There are some aspects of this that I welcomed, shutting down banquet halls, not having weddings right now, that made sense not to have, large gatherings. But, some of the stuff, I just worry it's tinkering around the edges, and I'm continuing to advocate focus our efforts on where the transmission is. And that means supporting those most vulnerable in industrial settings. We need sick benefits. We need an isolation center in Northeast Brampton. There are tools and support that we can provide. That's what we need to focus on.
Okay, let's delve into a couple of things you mentioned there. Workplace outbreaks. We at quickbitenews.com and in Brampton, we get a lot of tips about workplace outbreaks, but they don't, how do I say it? They don't publicize it, so we can't write about it, right? So I don't understand, and I know you've been. Why don't they out these companies rather than, because obviously contact tracing is impossible right now. So why aren't these companies outed?
In my opinion, there should be complete transparency. Public health's interpretation is that they only should release the name if there's a risk to the public. They believe that's their interpretation of the Public Health Act of Ontario in terms of their fiduciary obligation to patients. My opinion is we should have complete transparency of where there's an outbreak, no matter what the setting is.
Let's talk about sick pay. I know a lot of people are not going to, they're going to work sick because they have to go on EI or something if they, if they get COVID. So what's the latest on sick pay?
So how is it that 9 months into the pandemic, we don't have sick pay? For me, it's frustrating and very disappointing because there are a lot of workers in precarious employment, people that work for temp agencies that are going to work with symptoms because they can't afford to miss a paycheck. In a country as prosperous as Canada, we have to have sick benefits. We have to have sick pay. If you test positive, we should say we're going to have your back. Don't worry. This is what results in spread. And so right now the bill's stuck in the Canadian Senate, and it's unacceptable.
COVID-19 testing. I actually went, my son had some symptoms, so I had to get him tested. So I went through to Credit Valley Hospital, but the process was very painstaking. 4 doctors called me, 3 nurses called me, and 3 admins called me. Right? Imagine you're a senior, English is not your first language, and testing is not easy for people. Can anything be done about this?
It should be easier. It needs to be easier. And so I hope that, the province, is able to provide testing as easy as possible, as broad-based as possible. I know they're going to start to roll out these rapid tests, and I hope to see that that's readily available in the community. It shouldn't be complicated. We want people to get tested. We want to know where the virus is.
Agreed. This weekend, well, it's Black Friday today, and I'm sure there's going to be Black Friday sales all weekend. Is there going to be more enforcement in Brampton?
Yeah, there's enforcement that's heightened, but I'm just encouraging everyone to shop local. And if you're looking at sales outside of our region, please try to direct your support to local options. I know downtown Brampton's got some downtown bucks that they're encouraging as an incentive
Okay.
based on shopping at local stores. And just this is a tough time for our local businesses. This is a really tough time. So please, rather than go and support some international company or a U.S. company on Black Friday, find a local company to show them a little love.
What do you think of the other mayors saying pretty much Peel, Toronto, please stay out of our cities right now?
Yeah, I think the problem with when you shut down, one region and you leave the other region open is that it results in spillover. Frankly, it's why initially I was advocating you need a GTA wide policy, because how are you going to tell someone who's on the border of Brampton and Vaughan, that 2 minutes away they can eat in a restaurant in Vaughan, but they can't in Brampton. As much as you tell people not to spill over into other regions, it happens. And I think this lockdown in Toronto and Peel has been great for businesses in Halton, great for businesses in York Region. I think you're naive to suggest it isn't. You're naive to think that spillover doesn't happen. Of course it does.
Yeah, Vaughan Mills had a lineup this morning. So anyways, let's talk about the isolation center. There is one coming in Peel, but why wasn't it made in Brampton?
I'm frustrated about that, Khaled. I've been pushing for an isolation center, and I'm frustrated it's not in Brampton East. We provided 2 hotels where it could be. Right now, Public Health is saying, Peel Public Health is saying that they want one. The federal government is saying that they provided $6.5 million in funding, so it should be enough. Peel Public Health is saying that the funding only covered the one center in Mississauga, not one in Brampton. And so we've got some jurisdictional finger pointing between Peel Public Health and the Government of Canada. And I'm telling them both, get this sorted. I want an isolation center in Brampton East.
Is it something like, somebody that made the decisions in Ottawa did not come down here to see how big Mississauga and Brampton is? And
the notion, the minister's response is, they'll cover the transportation costs. If someone tests positive, you think we want them taking, a bus or a taxi 40 minutes? It can spread. And worse, imagine we use that explanation when it comes to schools or hospitals. What if you said, we're not going to have an elementary school